All right. Okay. So this is part one of regression therapy. Um, and we're going to talk about the ins and outs of regression therapy because I feel like it can be a very confusing, deep thing. So we're going to talk about, we're going to break it down a little bit for you. So the main thing I want to focus on is how regression therapy works. Okay. So in the video, in the last video, we talked about like the benefits and, what it looks like and all this stuff. But today I want to talk about how it specifically works, the ins and outs, and how it heals you. Okay. Um, so I have notes in front of me. So if you see me looking down a million times, that's what's happening. So when we are younger, we experience a trauma. Okay, let's see. So when we're younger, we often experience traumas, right? Divorces, unfortunate. Deaths, extremely unfortunate. Little things like our mother not giving us a sucker when we're 2 years old and we just desperately wanted it. That is considered trauma because, and I'll go into that in a minute. So when we're younger, we experience trauma. And those emotions from those traumas get stuck in our energy system. So I'm going to use this example because it's a lot easier for me to talk about in theories and stories. So there's a little kid and she's 2 years old and she wants the sucker. She's so desperate. She's like, please, mom, please. I just need it so much. And she picked it out from the store and it's just like everything she wants in life, right? And the mother says, no. Okay, what's going to happen? This little kid is obviously tiny, right? She can't comprehend why her mother would say no. Maybe her mother is like, you've already had 12 suckers today. Maybe her mother's like, we can't afford that right now, whatever it is. But this kid is going to interpret that as a message. It's going to interpret no as she doesn't love me anymore. She doesn't love me because she said no because I'm not worth it. Okay. This little kid, this 2 year old, is going to make up a decision and fill in all of the blanks because mom did it. Sometimes us as parents, we're in a rush to get out of the store. So we can't say, no, you can't have a sucker because we have dinner at home. Sometimes it's not that simple. Sometimes we're, human and we run out the store before we can explain to our child. So the child is left to come up with the reasons why her mother would say no. And a lot of the time it's going to be something along the lines of like, and by the way, this sucker theory is very, it's not traumatizing, I should say. This is just something that we can all comprehend. So mom's going to say no. The kid's going to make a belief system. I'm not worth it. I'm not worthy and deserving of this sucker. She obviously didn't want to give it to me, etc. She's going to make up a story in her head. That story is going to come with belief systems, mental belief systems, and emotional responses. It's going to make her feel something. Okay. When that happens, this same 2 year old is going to grow up. Okay. Now she's 17. She wants to have a slumber party. She goes up to her mom. She's so excited. She wants it so bad. She wants it so bad. She's feeling all of those same feelings. And guess what's going to happen? Her mom says no. And the 17-year-old is going to go, oh, I'm not worth it. I'm not worthy of it. I'm not deserving of it. My mom doesn't love me. And she's going to say all the same things because it's familiar. This is a familiar pattern. I recognize what's happening, so I'm going to go there, right? And then later in life, she's going to turn 30 and she's going to get married and she's going to have a boyfriend and it's going to be so exciting. She wants him to propose and it's just going to be so romantic and she's daydreamed about it her whole life. And she goes to say, I really want to get married. When are you going to marry me? And he goes, no. And she goes, what? I'm not worth it. I'm not deserving. Okay. You don't love me. And she's going to make another belief system. And every time this happens, the sad thing is it only gets stronger. It starts out with a sucker and it starts out with an inconvenience and it starts out with maybe minor feelings, moves to when you're 17, feelings are pretty strong because you're in puberty, right? And then it's going to solidify by the time she's 30 and that boyfriend. So then her whole life is going to go by. Now she's 60 and she's lived her whole life hearing no from other people because she was unworthy, undeserving, and nobody loved her. Does this sound familiar to anybody? Are these triggering, making connections. This is what happens to our brain. Okay. It doesn't have to be as extreme as I don't feel worthy and deserving. Sometimes it's as simple as, oh, I'm too big and out of control and loud. That was my whole life until about 18. I was like, oh, I'm too much for everybody. I'm too much. Okay. We all make our own belief systems, and those correspond with feelings. My feeling of too much was I'm overwhelmed by myself. And it was also this feeling of I'm a burden, burdensome. Who I am is burdensome. Okay. And they all come with feelings and emotions. Okay. So what happens is when this happens, we are regressing. I call it regression. It happens when we're regression. So we're 2, and then that 17-year-old is going to regress, and she's going to react like a 2-year-old. That's called regression. Regression is the opposite of progression. So it's the act of staying stuck in a cycle and not being able to unravel yourself from that cycle. Okay. So why age regression? Because we're constantly recording and making decisions and feelings based off of the data that our subconscious mind is taking in. So when we're 2, we can't just let that go. If we are traumatized by a certain event, especially big events when we're very young and we can't comprehend them, big moves, big, births and deaths, those are big things for a little kid. And our brain doesn't have the capacity to comprehend it. What it will do instead is just record it. It will hit record, and your brain will start to play, and it will start to literally record the data, the emotions, the negative feelings and thoughts that it's going to be taking in. When this recording happens, though, we are making decisions and feeling based off of those feelings and thoughts that we are having. So at 2 years old, we hit record, and then at 7 years old, the same situation came up, and our brain recognized, oh, this is familiar. I've been through this before. I know what needs to happen. I already make decisions about what needs to happen. I already know why she's going to say no. I'm unworthy and I'm deserving. Replay that. So your energy is going to send out a signal. It's going to send out a broadcast and say, I am unworthy and deserving. Mom, please say no. And mom's energy, subconscious brain is going to go, oh, you want me to say no? Okay, I got it. And then mom's conscious brain is going to say no. Right. And then she's going to say why. And she's going to be like, sometimes we don't know why. Maybe mom really doesn't know why. She just doesn't feel good about it. Maybe she doesn't want to deal with it right now. All of a sudden, her energy changed, right? Law of attraction, vibration, magnet theory, whatever you want to call it. Talk about that goes back to the thought video we had. And that is going to record at 17. And by the time we are about 28, we have until 28 before we start a whole new cycle. I kind of like to think about it like the moon cycle, how it like regulates every 28 days. But it's 28 years for us. Luckily, we have a lot of time. We have a whole new cycle, and those thoughts and belief systems burn a little bit deeper, become a little bit harder to dig up and heal. Because we've made they go from choices to decisions, and most of the time conscious decisions. So, that doesn't mean that you're hopeless, by the way. I get some people who are like, I'm already 28, I'm past 28, I'm screwed. No, it doesn't mean you're screwed. It just means that a younger child is way more susceptible to being, to having their mind changed, right? How easy is it to change a 2-year-old's mind? It's like, let's do this. Oh, just kidding, let's do this. And they're like, okay. And then a 17-year-old, it's a lot harder to change their mind. By the time they're 30, that's a lot harder. But have you ever tried to fight with a 60-year-old? It's like impossible. They have decided. Like, they know, okay? And that's what I'm saying. So by the time you hit 28, it happens every 14 years, I believe. No, 28 years. It's every 28 years, right? Anyway, so I'll look at the details. There's a couple different cycles. There's like 7 years, 14 years, and 28 years. Anyway. So basically what's happening is you're not broken, you're not hopeless. It's just that the younger you are, the more susceptible you are to heal your life and change. So start now. You're wasting time if you're not progressing. Okay. When we do an age regression, we are creating understanding and triggering the subconscious brain to release through shapes and colors. It is designed to reprogram without re-traumatizing. So normal therapy sessions, you have to talk about the trauma, right? And this is what makes regression therapy different. Normal therapists, you go into an office, you hash out you unpack your bag of what happened, and then you leave feeling kind of spinny and maybe not very productive. Sometimes all you need to do is talk and then it works, but sometimes it's really a traumatic experience, especially death, rape, really painful things that I don't want to trigger anybody with. But so what actually happens is in therapy, we re-traumatize. And we actually keep creating those events because we've triggered it. So anytime there's a trigger, what happens? An action happens. So if we trigger a gun, action, something's going to happen, okay? So what's happening is that we get triggered through therapy, normal therapy, and then we create that same feeling, and we're stuck in that feeling for days because our brain is triggered and trying to create an action in order to understand and comprehend it. Kitty is right here. Oh, here's my 2-year-old. So hold on, I'm going to help her. Okay, so with normal therapy, we are triggering the brain and then we're stirring it all up. With normal therapy, we are triggering the brain, stirring it all up, and then we are not really creating understanding with normal. Sometimes it happens. I'm not bashing therapy. Sometimes we do get clarity. But in my experience, 99% of the time, I would actually leave spinning and more confused than I was before. I would ask myself those same questions. Why does nobody love me? Why am I not deserving? Why does this keep working the way? And I would actually end up getting more frustrated and adding emotions to it. And therefore making the problem worse. So for me, therapy did not work. So regression therapy did, though. Regression therapy was the only thing that helped me. It's a form of energy healing. So, So what does regression therapy do? It takes you through the circumstance and helps you understand. The reasoning why you can understand with regression therapy rather than basic therapy, in my opinion, and what I've experienced, and I think the science even behind it, is because our brain, our subconscious brain, is built to keep us safe, not happy. And so our subconscious brain is actually designed to bring up the trauma, and sometimes that can result in sabotage. Whereas with regression therapy, we're not bringing up the trauma. Okay. Most of the time, we're compartmentalizing the trauma and we're giving traumas like emotions and feelings. So when therapists go, well, how did that make you feel? And you say depressed. Well, guess what you feel? Depressed. But if a regression therapist, this is the tactic, one of the tactic in IPT, I think that's what it's called, intermediate processing therapy. I don't know. Anyway, one of their tactics is, okay, give that emotion a shape and a color. And your subconscious brain goes, I'm confused. This was going to be alarming. I thought we were going to be feeling things deeply. I thought we were going to be experiencing things that were threatening because I've tucked this away in my brain because it's painful, but we're just working with shape and colors? Oh, okay. And then it cooperates for us and it's suggestible. And we go back into that state of being a 2-year-old where we're able to suggest new behavior to them through regression therapy, which is often done through hypnotic state, and creating understanding of your situation in a way and in a form that is not threatening. Okay. Normal therapy for me was always threatening, but regression therapy to me was safe. We're just working with shape and colors, right? That's primary school stuff. Okay. You see? So regression therapy helps because it tricks the subconscious brain to release things, circumstances and trauma through shapes and colors. And it is designed to reprogram our brain through reenacting the trauma and being able to make sense of it so it lets it go. Okay. One other fact about regression therapy that I have to touch base on, and this will probably make a lot of sense for a lot of you, Have you ever dealt with somebody who is emotional, who was obviously triggered and an age was coming up, and they reacted the trauma as if they were traumatized the first time, but not really? So, example of this, have you ever been in a relationship with somebody or been the person in the relationship where you've been hurt before and traumatized in a previous relationship with your parents, an ex-boyfriend or girlfriend, and then you move on into a healthy relationship, and because you're still holding on to that trauma, you react traumatized. Okay. So you're now in a completely different relationship. The trauma is not there anymore, but you're still acting traumatized, even though the person you're with is safe. This is what happens to ourselves when we are regressing. We are reacting. We are regressing into the trauma, and we act as though we are traumatized. So even when there is no danger, we believe that our husband is going to hurt us the same way our ex did, even when there's no evidence of it. So, sorry, I'm just reading these notes because I want to make sure I touch base on everything. So their vibration or your vibration will register as misperceived or unhealed trauma, and the law of attraction or vibe or magnet will match. So essentially what will happen is, oh, I'm in a circumstance or a situation that seems very familiar to my last circumstance or situation, so I need to react the same way because I know the result of what happened last time. So with my relationship with my ex-boyfriend, it was extremely toxic and very painful. My husband threw me for a loop, and my brain was always spinning, and I had anxiety for a year straight because I could not comprehend why my husband was treating me well. And I reacted the whole time we were dating. I was reacting like I was traumatized. And he was like, where is all this behavior coming from? And I would explain it's from my ex-boyfriend. So we react as though we're traumatized. So when regression therapists are doing regression therapy, they need to treat people as though they are traumatized, because they are. So we need to treat, and I won't even just say regression therapist. If you're dealing with somebody who's triggered, you need to start treating that person as though they have been just traumatized. So if we're talking about a car accident and the car accident happened 4 years ago, then we need to react to that person when they're talking about that car accident as though it has just happened yesterday, because to them, it still has, it's stored, and all of those feelings and all those emotions are there. And so it can be a very painful thing. Energy, I'm feeling really strongly right now. Empaths, shield up. Not shield up, but I guess if shield is your word, you can use shield, but I'm just feeling Melaleuca is really good right now. I'm talking about a lot of traumatizing situations, and I'm feeling people go, and soaking it in like spirits. And so I'm like, okay, everybody who's an empath, brush it off, clean it out, let it go. This is not you, okay? Recognize that. Not you, let it go. All right, that feels better. I was like feeling spirits taking this on. I was like, no. It's because I just went through a car accident. So that was very strong. And my empath friends were like, oh, I'm feeling that in you. So let it all go, let it all go. Okay. So treat people as though they are traumatized. And then shapes and colors are a way to understand and comprehend our trauma. And then also, one last thing, regression therapists are not clinical therapists, okay? So they're not licensed to give clinical advice. When somebody is doing regression therapy, I get this question a lot, like, what's the difference between regression therapy and like clinical therapy? Like, can't you get in trouble with the state of law? No, because I'm not giving clinical advice. Regression therapy is the act of facilitating healing when you are walking another person through their own healing process. Okay, so I'm not sitting there and saying, okay, now do this. Okay, maybe my advice is to do this. I'm not saying that to somebody. Most of the time I'm saying, okay, and how did that make you feel, and what do you want to do with this feeling, and how does that work? And it's you're putting somebody in a suggestible place, but if you know how to word it right and you go to the school to do it, it shouldn't be too traumatizing. It shouldn't be too close to therapy, because you're facilitating your own healing, whereas therapists are able to give clinical licensed advice, which regression therapists are not able to do. Ugh, okay, that was my whole spill. I hope this video finds you help. I hope that you understand that a little bit more about regression therapy and how it works and the ins and outs of it. If you have more questions, please leave them in the comments below and I will get to them. I hope you have an awesome rest of your day. I am going to go drink a ton of water.